I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, welcome to West Point, Mississippi. Lanny, it's still cold outside.
Yeah, but it's warm enough. It's been so cold that it kind of feels like spring a little bit out there right now.
It was so
At
cold
48.
Let me tell you, it was so cold yesterday.
How cold was it yesterday,
I saw
Bobby?
some squirrels flinging themselves on an electric fence.
Oh, wow. Yesterday.
That could be one of the worst ever.
That is close to the worst ever.
Yeah.
At least everybody's
I'll give you a
used to.
3 on that one.
No.
But the other one was like a 7
Yeah,
on the last
So I'm
episode.
averaging a 5?
2.
The first one was like a 1.
That's not good.
That doesn't even elevate to the level of corny.
But I think it's good.
So what was it again? The squirrels are hanging on an electric fence?
They're flinging themselves on an electric fence, but not any electric
get
fence.
warm?
To warm up.
A Gallagher.
Gallagher electric fence.
No
Because
doubt.
we've got
Those
a
are-
big announcement.
those are
Gallagher's
hot.
going to be
Those are
coming
hot.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Hot wire.
Great product.
Warming up.
Oh, I'm going to be on their all-star team next year.
No doubt
Yeah,
about
we
it.
are. We got to figure out what you need, and when we
I
get
got-
started.
Lots of fencing.
All right, guys.
I need lots.
So let me just go ahead and introduce everybody. We've got before. I don't know. I'm just scared something's going to happen over there. I'm looking over here. We've got Lann Wilf.
Back in
He's
the house.
been here before,
Yeah.
but now we're going to talk turkeys.
Hey.
A little bit.
And Lann, you have won the world championship. Am I correct?
Amateur world.
Amateur, well, but that's still the world. Yeah.
It means you don't know what you're doing, but you
It's
want
got an
You're pretty good
asterisk.
at it,
you stumbled your way into a victory. is
Don't know what
that-
you're doing, but
Okay,
you're pretty
well,
good at
I
it.
can't compare to this guy.
We're
sitting
going to give you
next to
more
me.
credit than that. Then we're looking over here to his immediate left is Jason Conrad,
Oh, yeah.
Union, Mississippi, down there near Chief Cyrus Bend. And you have won a bunch of titles now. And I don't want to get them wrong.
I've got lucky a bunch of times.
Tell us the top 3 or 4.
I've won 2 World Friction Championships, U.S. Open Friction, and 5 Mississippi State Championships.
Come on.
How about that?
He
He's
yell.
got credentials.
I believe he can yell.
I've been doing it a long time.
Credo.
Yeah, he does. He does. So we're going to talk. I want to learn about the dynamics of a turkey calling contest, and I'm sure there's a lot of drama. Then we want to pick your brains about calling and how y'all run some of the calls. But that's kind of where we want to go today. So with
Talking turkey.
with before we kind of get started there, if y'all will let us, we always do a blood on the biologic. But I'm not sure there's been anything since the last time we sat here.
You've
has
been whipping that,
You've
cracking
had it-
that whip on
yeah,
us this
you've
week.
had
We
us
ain't
in
had
here.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's had time to go hunting because Bobby.
Every hour
my
we have a
gosh.
podcast.
Yeah, everything I planned has to get canceled.
Poor Richie.
Yeah, I was hoping to go this afternoon,
Me
and here we
too.
got another podcast.
Me too, Dudley. I think we should go on strike.
I would say that I know we talked about it yesterday, but Lann's daughter.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
we
right.
did-
She
we
made the
mentioned
blood
her
on the
yesterday.
biologic yesterday. That's
did.
right.
Yeah,
Made a heck of a good shot on a 2-year-old 8.
There
First
you go.
deer had about 65 more inches of antler than my first deer.
Yeah, that's right. I was in the same
What,
situation.
it score 65?
Yeah, pretty much.
That'd be like
Pretty
me.
much.
Oh my goodness! But you know who's counting, who scores.
who scores.
It's so good to see. the
It's
kids
just a
out there
number.
Doing it. No
That's
doubt
exactly
about it.
right.
Especially Bobby. He doesn't count.
So before we really get serious here, I got to look. I like to do these quotes, and
Oh.
I got one I think is perfect for today. Worked it out.
Worked it out.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
All right.
No.
So let me read
Here we
this.
go.
And I'm saying this can apply to turkey calling.
Do we have some background music for him, Richie? We'll work on that.
No,
He
no,
does
no,
have
no.
some. So here we go. So when fishermen cannot go to sea, they repair their nets. When the sea is much too rough to sail, the smart ones don't wait. They get to work. They mend their nets. They sharpen their tools. They prepare for the moment the storm breaks, because even in stillness, there's progress. It's not about sitting idle. It's about building what's next.
That's a lot.
So it can apply to so much.
A lot to digest.
But I'm saying today, guys, we could be practicing our turkey calls all this time. When we're sitting back there and the phone's not ringing, or we could be running a yelper.
Who
We
says
could
I'm
be-
not?
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
thought
a good
that's
point.
where we were. Yeah.
I'm kind of back in a
I actually
secure
started
and
yelping.
undisclosed location.
I
so
started yelping Monday.
Did you?
Monday.
I think it's a great thing to start early and kind of because by the end of turkey season, I feel like I could win the world, but at the beginning
You
of
do,
it,
nobody else
I don't
does.
feel like that.
I'll probably still throw one in and
I think
warm it up with some hot coffee on the way to the woods. That opening
60
morning.
days of sleep deprivation affect your thinking too. So by the end,
It probably does.
Yeah.
Turkey calling contest has been around a long time. Tasha, do you remember what the first ones that you kind of became aware of? When you think back, you've been turkey hunting longer than any of us, 70 or 80 years. And
I think you even called him.
95.
You called him a contest or two yourself.
I
though,
did.
didn't you?
A couple of them.
A couple of them.
Won a couple.
Hey.
where were the first ones?
I don't know where the first ones were. I remember they were already, this was like, say, 40 years ago. They were already a fair amount out. I mean, you saw the difference in 50 years ago was there weren't, hundreds and hundreds of people, practicing the call in all the contests, or maybe thousands to this point around the country. There was just a few, and so some of those early legends were just some of the few that would actually go to the contest and call. So I don't think it ever hit a real big stride until the advent of the National Wild Turkey Federation, and then I think that's when things started spreading around the country more regionally. Plus, you got to remember, 45 years ago, whenever they were founded, there weren't that many turkeys in the United States compared to what they became. As they spread around to new locations, more people got into calling. But back in that day, most of it was concentrated in the Southeast because that's the only place there were many turkeys. Yeah. There were some others, but then thanks to conservation efforts and to the National Wild Turkey Federation, we all should tip our hat to them every day. The expansion took off all over the country, and until the 2010s, we hit these headwinds we're dealing with today a little bit. So I think that expanded calling contests. I remember there was one I think the local chapters were having, there'd be a state championship. Then I'm trying to think, what was the one in Missouri that was so popular? It wasn't a Grand National or World. Of course, we got involved with the World Championship, been in Mobile all those years, and took that to another level for 5 or 6, 7 years. That was a lot of fun putting that on.
That was fun.
Lann, do you ever think about calling?
In a contest?
It's look.
No, I think about calling all the time, not in a contest, though.
Hey, those today, it's crazy. I mean, just to think you would get involved. I mean, it'd be like saying I'm going to go hand off the baton a couple of times, and I'm going to run in the Olympic relays. I mean, these are precision musicians today. They're not just great callers and stuff too. It's like perfection. People that win, I mean, you could be in, more than me, but I mean, you literally can have one little slip sound and be in 5th place because they're so perfect. I mean, so perfect. Yeah. And so it's different. I mean, there's people calling contests all the time. They're just spitting feathers everywhere. They sound so much like turkeys, but unless they achieve that perfection, they can't compete for the big ones anymore. It's amazing what it's evolved to.
Hey, Lanny.
Hey, Bobby.
Have you ever wondered if your feeder went off or if it's even got corn in it?
Yeah, you sit there at night wondering about it.
Moultrie has solved this. This is some high-tech stuff.
Fits on any feeder that helps monitor the level of feed and lets you know if it went off or not. And you can remotely control it.
Can I look at your feeder if we're on the hub?
I really hope not, but we're going to have to talk to the guys at Moultrie about that. This is the biggest thing in feeders since corn.
That's saying a lot.
With Feed Hub, there's no more stressing, no more guessing. This technology allows you to remotely monitor your feeders.
We always say feed safely, do it the right way.
No doubt about it.
To learn more about it, visit moultrieproducts.com/feedhub. It's a great invention.
Unbelievable technology and products brought to us by our buddies at Moultrie. Nosler is known for their bullets, and now they're making suppressors. Nosler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nosler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nosler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at nosler.com.
It's interesting now that there's friction and I guess open, you can use anything you want to. And what other natural voice, I suppose?
Oh yeah, they've got it all now. We've got natural voice is starting to come back a little bit. They've got this trumpet call division.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
Oh, yeah, it's so popular.
And those devices are so neat because of the builder. It's not the device, it's the people that are building them. And that takes it to another level. But like at the Alabama State this year, Terrence had a trumpet division. And there was 25 guys that you never see calling contests.
That's right. Huh. I think that's very cool because that's the highest degree of difficulty for me of all of them.
All of them.
Yeah,
it's just it's completely opposite of what everything else. We're doing something different, and it's like going from playing a trumpet to a saxophone. It's just completely different.
That's awesome. We started when we got involved with that. I was pretty proud. We came up with some innovations. We were the first one to ever have a 2-man competition.
I always enjoyed those.
To me,
awesome.
that'll stand the hair up on the back of your neck.
No doubt
more
about
than
it.
listening
You close
to
your
any
eyes,
of
you're like,
two guys that are really worked out a little routine and all. It's amazing.
Before you go, Lanny, before you go, Toxie, do you remember the first time you and I met? Do you remember where it was?
In Montgomery?
John Collett introduced us.
How about that?
At the Southeastern Open.
That's what it was, the Southeastern.
Yep.
There was the one I was thinking. There was the one that was called the Mid-American.
The
Got
Mid-American,
to be pretty big.
that was
That
in
was the
Missouri.
beginning of
That's
the.
what I was thinking of.
At the American
So
Center.
do you know I got third place one year in that?
Oh wow! So there were two.
Whatever.
But there were two.
There wasn't
Three
much
callers.
competition then.
There were 3 callers. Yeah. I got a giant trophy.
But there was really 3 callers.
This is a junior division. I wish I still had that trophy. It was huge. That
can't believe you got rid of it.
I don't know what happened to it.
You were proud, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's good.
So, Jason, let's learn about you. Tell us, how did you get into all this?
Basically for turkey hunting. I mean, I killed my first turkey the year that Mossy Oak was founded. It was basically to fill in that gap between turkey seasons. So I killed my first turkey, was Jake, and in the year Mossy Oak was founded. The next year, nobody in my family hunted. My dad didn't hunt. Nobody hunted. But my dad had a friend. He drove a propane delivery truck. And he had a friend that the guy was actually had a stroke and was paralyzed on half of his body. But he loved turkey hunting. So it was all about calling with him. There was no bushwhacking. There was no setting up in front of him. You heard him. You sat down. You called him up. And so I started learning how to run a mouth call. And the next year there was a calling contest at the EMEPA building in Meridian, Mississippi. And he said, "Hey, you want to go call in that calling contest?" I said, "No, I don't want to do that." He said, my daddy, he was always big on never giving you anything. You had to work for everything. Even though he could afford to do it, you had to work for it. And I always wanted these 3-inch Magnum Remington turkey loads. And at the time, they was the green loads with the black brass. I said, "I got to have them." He said, "Well, if you go enter that contest, that's what they're giving away for first place."
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna win that. I'm gonna win them shells." And I went and I won the shells. I said, I said, "This works." So, and it started from there. The next year, called in 2 contests the next year. And then the next year, he come to me, had a magazine article from NWTF about this Grand National Turkey Calling Contest. And he said, "You want to go to that?" I said, "Well, sure, I want to go to it." And he goes, "Well, I don't know how we're going to get there." So we pieced together this old piecemeal truck, went to Indianapolis, Indiana, and I walked in there with one mouth call. Quaker Boy Old Boss End. And that's all I had, and that lit the fire. And after that, I said, this is something I'm always going to do, and I had early success, so it made it easier to want to do it. But it was just a fill-in for turkey season. It was something to do when I couldn't kill turkeys.
So did you win that contest with one mouth call?
I actually placed 5th that year.
Okay.
Then the next year, I placed 2nd, and then the next year is when they started the intermediate division. And I won the intermediate division. The first year they had the intermediate division, there was a bunch of us that actually made the finals in the senior division the year before.
So what years were these?
So 96 was the year that I won the intermediate. I called in the contest in Meridian was 86 or 87, and then I called in one contest a year up until 92.
Okay, that's what I say. I can remember when our earliest involvement was, before even that, I went over to one in Columbus. They were having a contest at their local chapter and all that. I decided I'd call in it and everything. But then along came Bob Dixon, who was very involved in contests and running contests, calling in contests and stuff. So that took us to a whole nother level. His involvement, his knowledge of everything that went on in the contest. Yeah. But I remember you pretty early on after that. I remember your name as being one of the ones to contend with, even way back then.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Bob, and actually that was kind of a defining moment was meeting Bob. So we was in our little house in Union, And I believe it was 90. It was the last year that they had the World Championship in Mobile before it went to Birmingham for a while.
Yeah, that would have been more like 94 or 5.
94
probably.
or 5.
Yeah,
I believe it was the year Steve Stoltz won it, or Mark Drury won it. One of those 2 years. It was 93. It was right after Larry Norton had won it twice.
Right.
And then the Missouri boys come down and won it.
Yep.
And they had a junior division. And I had that same jacket on that my dad had bought me in 1987 or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wearing that jacket, get done with the contest, play second in the contest, did well, get home, and we still had the rotary phone at home. The phone rings, of course you don't know who it is when they're calling. I pick up the phone, it's Bob Dixon. I said, hey, this is Bob Dixon with Mossy Oak. I said, yeah, man, awesome. I'm glad you called me. And he said, listen, we're kind of getting our pro staff stuff ramped up a little bit, and we noticed that you had a Mossy Oak jacket on at this contest. And listen, it was like, that was the highlight of my life. As a kid, it was so awesome. And he sent me some camouflage. Y'all sent me some camouflage. And after that, it just took off like an airplane. It meant so much to me. And
that's awesome.
It was just, I can remember like it was yesterday picking up that phone and saying, this is Bob Dixon. Bob Dixon called me, And, it was
awesome.
just awesome after that. Loved it.
That really is. Wow. I'm kind of letting that sink in just a
Yeah,
little bit.
that
That's
gives
good
me
stuff.
that's a little chill bump stuff for me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
thinking about him,
I
especially
wish
this time
I'd
of
have
year.
killed my first turkey in 1986.
Well, it was,
I go back a little further.
So look, let's think about this. So if there's somebody listening that's maybe thinking about calling in a contest, let's start with some advice you would give them, because there's got to be things y'all have learned through the years of how to approach just your mind and just the whole nine yards.
You got to remember what you're doing. It's a turkey calling contest. It's not a turkey killing contest. You're trying to sound like the turkey. You're not trying to call to a turkey. And it's not different, but it is different. I mean, when you're trying to make the different sounds, that's what you're trying to do. So you forget about trying to kill turkeys and you just listen to turkeys and try to do what they're doing. We overcomplicate it on social media because it's like with anything on social media, there's an expert around every corner. But it's pretty simple. Listen to a turkey and do what they do. And you can either do it out in the woods, like I'm really bad. I mean, I'm a huge bow hunter, love to bow hunt, but I find myself every deer season finding a flock of turkeys and leaving the bow in the truck and going and getting in with them and getting under them early in the morning and that kind of stuff. And for anybody beginning, YouTube's got just a gaggle of, videos. Listen to those videos. The devices are so good now. That's something that back then we had to find a device that was worth a darn to be able to use. Now it's different. The devices is not an issue. Every friction call is good. Mouth calls are great. Listen to YouTube, listen to turkeys, and try to imitate them, and you'll win calling contest.
So when you walk up to that stage, before you get up there, do you know what he's going to ask you to?
Yeah,
he's going to say.
They have a list of calls that they've either drawn or just picked.
So how far in advance do you know that?
That varies. Some contests you find out 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Some contests you find out the morning of.
Grand Nationals, it's the evening before.
It's the evening before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you got to be fluent in everything because you don't know.
You got to be ready.
I know. I mean, I've never been to one. So are you? I'm sure the rules vary at different locations. Maybe no.
They're pretty consistent.
And so they say, "Let me hear your this and this," and you. So it's not like a long sequence. You just go up there and start calling.
How it plays out is at Grand National, you've got for the prelims a 4-minute running clock from first note to closing. For the finals, which I haven't been in yet, but you've got a 5-minute running clock. And then the open callers in the finals have 2-minute scenarios.
Okay.
But every contest you go to, for the most part, you've got 1 minute per call. And I try to stay, and most of the guys that are successful try to stay within 40 to 50 seconds. You don't want to drag it on too long. If you drag it much past 45 seconds, you're going to lose the judges. The goal is to try to keep them captivated, keep them engaged.
Okay. So do y'all, you do a sequence that you practice, like memorizing a song, like over and over, or do you kind of mix it up a little bit?
I don't. So I'm probably the most untechnical caller out there. I don't look at a clock. I don't practice a sequence. I just listen to turkeys and try to do what they're doing.
Okay.
And I go completely off of feel. It's kind of like when you're hunting, you don't know every yep you're going to make or what you're going to say to that turkey.
Don't.
So when I'm in a contest and they ask for excited hen yep, my mind automatically goes usually to the last recording I've listened to of a wild turkey. And it may be this way this contest or that way the next contest. And I've had people tell me in the past, you're just not consistent. I don't care. That's the first turkey that pops into my mind. That's what I'm going to try to sound like, because if I try to do it scripted, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to do something wrong. I can't do that. I can't look at the clock. And it has hurt me. I have got kicked out of the Grand National Finals before for going over on time.
Because 50 seconds is a lot of
Got
time.
a 3-point penalty, kicked me out of the finals.
Yeah. You know, Toxie, one year, somebody must not have shown up at the World, and I was asked to judge. I remember Bob asking me to judge. And it was really hard to tell the difference. After you listen to 15 or 20 guys,
It's terrible.
that 21st or 20, everybody kind of starts melting together.
It's funny how, you can watch from the crowd, even on the front row, and you get through and the results are, and it's like, there's no way. I listened to it myself. It's amazing. It's kind of like the voice. And when you are sitting back there and you can't see them, and you're real close, you can hear every little sound. It's different than when you're sitting in the audience.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And like, I can remember talking to judges, like, how in the world? And it's like, everyone was like, man, I had number 7. I had number 7. I had number 7. I mean, they all completely agreed with the winner, but then it sounded so differently in the crowd.
Under that curtain too, the hardest thing for a judge is you hear these guys warming up. And I know you've heard it many times at the World Talks. You hear these guys warming up, and you kind of pick out the guy in the room that sticks out to you. When you get under that curtain, they all go together. They're so close.
Yeah, and you got to be careful you don't have that or too much knowledge of what different ones sound like, because it could lead to a little bit of bias. So best part you do, not even listen to them, walk in there.
Not even listen to
Correct.
Yeah,
So-
when I judge, I don't even go in the call
But
room.
I will
make
say
them, I make
there-
them text me and say, hey, you're late.
It's a little bit like in even the Olympic sports and stuff sometimes. Who you go behind does make a difference in perception. It's crazy how someone comes in. I mean, nobody wants to go behind like Matt Van Sites or somebody like that in the Grand Nationals anymore, because, you got someone that's so perfect. I mean, they're going to get penalized, and vice versa. You could go behind someone who didn't sound very good. I think it'll help your score. It's just the way it is when you're sitting back there.
Yeah, so I guess there's a luck of the draw then.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be.
Another caveat is you don't want to go behind somebody that's really bad, because that will drag your scores down as well if you're not careful.
But
And I think over time that's changed. I think used to it was like what Toxie said. If you went behind somebody really good, it knocked it down.
Yeah.
It
'Cause,
seemed, it's changed. It's kind of evolving to where you don't know now.
what if you're judging and you heard someone really good and you gave them high scores? You still, and the next guy clearly maybe not as good.
That's right.
You're gonna in your mind say, "Well, I can't give him as high scores as I just did." And so it does affect you a little bit.
You end
on
up
that.
and I think it's just human nature. We end up judging people to people instead of people to turkeys. But I mean, it's human nature.
I remember Bob would tell me, I can't remember, but it was better to be on into the contest instead of being first or
Oh,
second.
yeah. You don't call
It's
it
kind of
kiss
the
of death.
prelim rounds are different too. So like used to, you got 47 guys this year in the friction. You got 46 guys in the senior open. You've got 35 teams in the team call.
That's
So
gonna
that's
be fun to
70
listen.
guys. So a number is so critical. But at the Grand Nationals, generally in the prelim round, your previous year's champion's automatically in the finals. So he's a non-factor. So he always takes caller number 2. Well, them judges know he's caller number 2. So, they're going to give him a score. He's usually going to win the prelim round because everybody knows, well, that's the all-series champion. We can't score him low. But if you're 3 or 4, sometimes you can use that to your benefit, because if you can just inch close enough to him, that score is already up there so high, it's hard for him to come down too low. What really hurts is if you got a guy that's really low at that spot, and then the next spot you're really good. It's hard. It's just too drastic of a change for them judges. And man, you may see 15 callers before another guy makes it to the finals. It's a guessing game. But friction's a lot more open than open calling. The open calling, the numbers is super critical. Friction caller. Like last year in the top 12 in the prelim round plus the previous year's champion, there were 6 points between them. It's half point, half point, half point, half point, half point.
Wow.
You may have 30 points in the open.
Yeah.
So it's a different ball game.
That's really interesting. So, in the friction, are you using glass, slate, or are you using a little bit of everything?
Anything you can rub together and make a turkey call sound.
Yeah.
You could use a push button if you wanted to. If it sounded good enough.
Are you using the same call to do it all?
I don't. I have before, but now I generally go back and forth between. I'm an aluminum guy. I run a lot of aluminum. Just it fits my style better.
Do you run aluminum strikers on like glass calls? Do you swap them up a little bit?
I don't. I use carbon strikers on slate calls though.
Yeah, I do too.
I love carbon. Absolutely. And
they're a little more grabby.
Yep.
You know, and the thing about aluminum striker, I've got one I love, but it slicks up really fast. You got to keep it sanded all the time.
And what I do with that, I'll take like aluminum strikers, or if I've got a really good striker, even for contests that I want to fix, I'll take chalkboard paint it on the end of it, brings it right back to life, grabs like it needs to, and rock on.
I'll tell you one thing was not talked about back in the day, and you're talking 30 plus years ago, Bob put a lot of stuff in our head because he was such a pioneer in that world. But your strikers is much more important than your pot call.
I think for me, it may be more.
Yeah.
For me personally.
And I'm telling you, that's the easiest thing to lose. I've lost so many great strikers I would kill to have back. Of course, they've been rained on or ruined now somewhere. But it's so easy to lose a striker when you get up to move or get up to go stand on one's neck or whatever you do. They fall out of your vest worse now.
Well, probably when you're crawling up.
Yeah,
on
but
one.
I've had some strikers just match with certain calls, and rarely is it the one that came with it.
That's it.
That's right.
So I've got like 100 strikers. I've got a
too.
box full of them, and when I get a new slate call or glass or whatever, even some kind of friction, I'll get it. It's fun to go through and see what might or might not run on them.
Oh yeah,
Because some wood is real dense, and some's real light.
I mean, for me, like, and it's this way with contests. I'll take maybe the same pot call, and I'll have 3 different strikers for 3 different calls, and it sounds like a totally different call. Just whatever I'm trying to do at the time. For contests or hunting, it's either 6 of one, half a dozen of them.
So don't ever throw, if you're buying calls and using calls, don't ever throw away your strikers.
Never.
Just keep them in a box because you never know when one's going to run something.
That's right.
Do you guys hit the road and travel much for these tournaments, these calling contests?
I think Lann probably does more than I do. I hit a stretch where I work in the oil field. I work in West Texas in oil fields. And so I hit a stretch where I was always at work for these contests. And you work on an oil rig, you don't miss. You don't take off work. So there's going to be somebody that replace you. So I just never went. I went a 10-year stretch from, I'd say 2014. I won my first World Friction Contest. And so once you do that, you're automatically qualified for life for the Grand Nationals. So I didn't need to go get qualified. So I just never went to them. I would have, but I've just now got to where some of the contests are coming back, and I'm hitting a few more than I used to. But used to, it was 15, 16 contests a year from Maine to Oklahoma trying to get qualified. I mean, we would literally pool up and spend thousands of dollars to try to get to these things. It was insane at the time.
It wears you out.
So to qualify for the Grand Nationals, you have to win a local event, a state event?
Yeah, sanctioned event.
You have to win a sanctioned contest or get second behind somebody that's already qualified. So say hypothetically if Conrad and I were calling at the World and I got second, then I would be qualified because he's qualified for life. And it does trickle down to third as well, so first and second are already qualified and you got more than 8 callers in a division, the third place caller gets qualified.
I think at a point they're going to get to where they probably have to make it harder to qualify. I hate to say there's getting to be too many people because we whined and moaned about not enough contests for so long, but now we're kind of, there's getting to be a bunch in Nashville. I mean, Thursday and Friday is daylight to dark all day long turkey calling. Yeah. And it's a nightmare for those organizers. So I think it's going to get to a point where it's going to get harder to qualify. And it does make it a little bit more. But then again, if you get qualified at a contest in Arizona where there's 3 guys,
right,
and then you come to Alabama, where right now I would probably say Alabama, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Georgia's got the best callers overall. as far as numbers. Then you go over there and you got to compete with, let's say you go to Kentucky, you got to compete with Jesse Martin. You got to compete with this guy, that guy. How are you going to get qualified? You got to go to Ohio, compete with Dustin Jones, Josh Grossenbacher. I mean, golly, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I can see, Mike, I'm looking at you. We always talk about how much pressure turkeys put on us, and you get nervous when you got a call. But if you can master being up on that stage, and then the pressure that audience puts on you, that's got to apply toward your hunting a little bit, doesn't it?
It's not the audience that puts pressure on you. It's the situation. You've got this one opportunity to get it right, and you're being scored, and you're calling against some of the best that's ever picked up a call. I was listening to something on the way here today, trying to think about something clever to say, because I always try to come up with some great one-liner. But
Yeah, Bobby does that a lot.
I don't know. I don't know anybody like that.
there's an old story about a samurai in Japan named Miyamoto Musashi.
Okay.
He was supposedly the greatest swordsman ever to live in Japan. Never lost a duel. And he said, if you can master laziness, fear, and self-doubt, you can become unstoppable. And those are the three greatest, I would say, liabilities in this game, is laziness from not preparing, fear of losing, and doubting what you're doing. And if you can not be afraid and believe in what you're doing, you can have some success. You're going to get beat, because that's the nature of the game. And sometimes you legitimately deserve to get beat. I called in a contest last Saturday. I struggle with a cluck and purr because, number one, my hands are the size of a bear's paw, and number two is when I get under stress, the power stuff really isn't a problem. It's the soft finesse stuff that gives me trouble. The clucks and the purrs and the tree calls that create problems for me. And I didn't have an atrocious cluck and purr, but it wasn't a winner, and I paid for it. And one judge gave me a score I thought I deserved, and he thought I was going to complain about it, and I told him I deserved that score when we were talking about the scorecards later. Other people gave me some scores that were too high that I thought, I didn't deserve that. But,
they were just being nice.
Well, possibly. But
I mean, in its best day, it's a subjective thing, It's like it's opinion. Now, that's why you do get a wide range. But I mean, especially most major contests, people are judging that have judged a lot of contests. It's not. I mean, if there's how many average number of judges are there?
Usually 5 to 7.
I was going to say 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Then I would say no more than one is going to be some kind of newbie. It's always going to be almost all people with a lot of experience, and so there are some things that are kind of talked about, they listen for in the consistency of things, or did he pull this off or that off? But it's still subjective. And, in one way, it might be frustrating to some callers thinking they did better, but at the same time, I think it makes it a little more fun that it is like an opinion thing and not like some hard rules like you look at all the little things they check off, like Olympic skaters or something like that. It's just not like that. So
one of them. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it kind of makes it more fun. And I do like, personally, you talked about more and more different contests, especially locally, maybe locally not so advertised. So average guy could actually get into one and feel like, he wouldn't, because I'm telling you, if average guy gets in a contest with the ones y'all are talking about, you're going to get your feelings hurt really bad.
And the thing about it, now with devices being so good, especially friction calls are so good, literally, you could take one of your secretaries out here, office people, never touched a turkey call, and probably in 30 minutes, she could do every single call that we got to do in a contest. And it wouldn't be just too terribly bad. It would be recognizable. So it's different now. There's no reason for anybody to not go anywhere to get a call. You get a call, go to a contest. I mean,
can AI figure into this in the future?
I hope not.
Something listening?
Gosh, Bobby, that's a sad thought.
I would hope that we could avoid that.
Yeah.
Continue to have.
What about robots?
Bobby's just talking
Matt
about when
Fitzsimmons
he
is a robot, really.
That
He's
Bobby
not, he's not a real person.
Bobby's like, yeah, I am not a robot.
So, are there any
the
rules
box.
that y'all can say that I'm not a fan of the way they do this?
Yeah, I mean,
There's
probably.
been some noise. Yeah, there's a couple of things, but I try not to stir the pot too much.
There you go.
I would. So one of the things that's come up is kids calling up with the adults lately. I think that'll probably see some change eventually. I'm of the opinion that if a kid is good enough to call with us, then let them do it. If they're the best in the world, the best in the country, then bring it on. My thing is that kids of that caliber calling down with other kids. So if they choose to call up, that's great. Come on. We'd love to have you, but let these other kids have an opportunity to place, So I think maybe one of the things that I would encourage the NWTF committee handles the calling stuff to look at would be if the kids want to call up, let them. But that particular day, if they choose to call up with the seniors, they can't call in the kids division that day.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
the
that
next
makes-
week, if they want to drop back, then rock on and drop back.
Yeah.
But my only real word of advice to people is, and a contest organizer organizes the world does have one pithy thing to say about the contest is this is not a calling contest. This is an imitating contest. We're trying to capture as much real turkey with our instruments as we can. It's not like it's a nuance difference from calling to a gobbler in the woods. You're actually trying to sound like a real hen and trying to convince the judges that you've got feathers on that stage. It's showing off.
Okay.
And main thing I would tell people, anybody getting into this, is do not listen to other callers. It will mess you up.
It'll intimidate you too, honestly.
Well, it makes you.
That's right.
It makes you. If you have a strict rehearsed script, which I'm really bad about doing that because I have to kind of memorize what I'm going to do, and then after I have it completely memorized, I can flow within that. But if you have a strict rehearsed script, you're going to sound like a droid making turkey sounds. It needs to be more of a flowing, fluid sounding run rather than
Like he said,
R2D2 trying to.
Yeah,
Right.
go back in your mind to where you were in the woods surrounded by hens, or whatever you said the last time you've listened to something. It was real turkeys.
Listen to turkeys
Because the
every day.
resources are there, like a couple of people that have really got a lot of good videos on YouTube. Douglas Herman, he's got one. He calls it Yepaholics, and he's got this 2 different flocks of turkeys in Nebraska that he sets with, and when it's not sub-0 degrees, he sets with these turkeys every single day. And he doesn't just go out there like most of us do here. A few turkeys go to the house. He will set with them jokers from the time they fly down till lunch.
You said
dark,
in Nebraska?
in Nebraska.
Well, those are Merriams or
They're
Mixed.
hybrids,
Rios?
probably.
Yeah, could be. I'm just saying that's a different sound.
It's a different sound.
That's a different sound than what we got down here.
But there's one thing that I find that helps me between the different ones, like the turkeys. I have a group of turkeys behind my house I sit with a lot. They don't yelp nearly as much as those turkeys out there do. Like they're just making racket all the time. The turkeys behind the house,
It's all soft stuff.
you let one
seems to be more weather
well,
sensitive in the southeast.
absolutely. It's like
Not just gobbling, but just turkeys in general.
exactly just like in North Missouri, Southern Iowa. I mean, it could be 20 degrees and they gobble their guts out, and it's just different down here.
It seems like what little bit I know about turkeys, every time that hen vocalizes, she makes herself vulnerable to a predator. Every time a gobbler gobbles, he makes himself vulnerable. So down here where we have, probably as many or more predators than anywhere in the country, and I don't really tout the predator control flag as much as some people, but I never met a coyote that wasn't guilty of something, so he always needs to get his medicine. But turkeys vocalize, and I think they inherently know that they're making themselves a target when they speak. So getting that good vocalization out of a Mississippi Eastern, Alabama Eastern is fairly difficult.
Well,
one of the-
South Florida, I mean,
Yeah,
you go down
South
there,
Florida.
they just act different. I mean, it's
It's
different.
just a different animal. But
Different animal.
it seems like listening to turkeys every day, it's helped me more in the last year than anything else that I've done.
Okay.
So are you guys you're not walking into a department store and buying a call and using that? Are you making your own calls? Or somebody custom making calls for you guys?
I make some of my own. I mean, I don't make any of the pot calls, any of the box calls. Right now, the box calls that I run Matt Van Sice's high-class box calls. Phenomenal call. They're just next level because of the person that's making them. Mm-hmm. Anybody can make a box call, but not anybody can tune them. Matt's got so much of that in his head. He's just talented with it. So I run his box calls. I'll run Pat Strausser's aluminum pot calls. Absolutely love them. And then I've, some call builders that nobody knows of. I got a call in my box right now there's a guy in New York named Devin Gee. He doesn't even have a name for his call company as far as I know. I just seen him post a call on Facebook one day. I said, I want that call. Mm-hmm. He sent it to me. That's my runner up in my call bag right now. So I don't necessarily call anybody and ask them to build me a call. I just hear it on Facebook. It sounds good.
Some of the best stuff I've heard in the last friction calls, and most of the people make their own mouth calls. I've made some, but most of them are coming through a call company or somewhere. I mean, because they can put out mass volume too. But there's what I was getting at is just it seems to be. And people out there need to kind of search around. Some of these custom call makers make some incredible sound, and they don't make a lot of them, and they're expensive. But man, when you start going through the best of those custom call guys, unbelievable the quality of the sound on the stuff.
Hey guys, listen up. Let me tell you about an awesome deal Springfield Armory is offering now through the end of 2024. When you purchase a brand new model 2020 Waypoint or Redline rifle, you'll receive a model 2020 rimfire rifle with a black synthetic stock absolutely free. That's an over $400 value on the house. You know we love Springfield Armory and their top-notch products you'd be proud to hand down to your kids and grandkids. So why wait? Learn more about this incredible offer at GearUp2024.com. Springfield Armory. Defend your legacy.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation, redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done. Making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
The Marlon Watkins, he figures into this somewhere.
Yeah, he does.
I run his long boxes for Kiki runs and farm type stuff.
Yeah, like that.
I've done well in a couple of contests with Marlon's fiddle boxes. I run his long boxes almost exclusively for Kiki run. I've got a Roger Parks key disc. Roger Parks has custom series, and I can functionally call on the key disc, but it's a piece of aluminum with a rhododendron striker, and it's finicky. Most of my calls, of course, I don't mouth yelp on stage. I had a pipe dream once that I was going to be able to, but it just didn't work. But I make my own mouth yelpers. I actually built a little jig several years ago.
It's fun.
Yeah, started making my own mouth yelpers, but my boxes, I gravitate between, Marlins to a degree on the yelping boxes, but my two primaries right now are Matt's high-class call-style boxes and Zach Conaway's boxes. And Zach's got true hands. And as far as pots go, I primarily run Dustin Jones's a mix of slate, aluminum, and crystal Blackstone custom calls out of Ohio.
Y'all write all that down?
But that doesn't mean you can't go into, say, a Bass Pro Shop or wherever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because I've actually got a call right now in my box that I will, in Nashville this year, that I'll fly down, cackle, cut, and do all that on, that I bought 15 years ago at a Bass Pro Shop. Mm-hmm. A Woodhaven Legend slate. I could go, I honestly believe that if a guy really, before he started spending $200 on a box call, and some of these calls, like some of these trumpets are up around $500 now.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Oh, they're expensive. But he could literally go into a Bass Pro Shop, sit down, get a Woodhaven Vision Crystal, a Woodhaven Legend Slate, a Woodhaven Per Pot, a Woodhaven, and find them a key disc or a long box, they can literally get buy every call they need for a contest right there. Mm-hmm. Or at any of these stores around here, Van, Sporting Goods, and Brandon, tons of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they're a great retailer.
Those real hen Woodhaven boxes are not bad.
Oh, they're great.
Solid.
I mean,
solid.
So I mean, like I say, I'm gonna have a call. I'm gonna walk on a Grandmaster stage with that's 15 years old. I paid $50 at a Bass Pro for. So
if that, probably.
Yeah.
So Toxie, when Lann walked in, it looked like a giant tackle box of all of his stuff, and it's I guess a big briefcase.
Boys and their toys.
Yeah.
I'm looking at one on the
in
couch over there.
Now, Bobby exaggerated a little bit. That's not that bad.
Strikers are vital. Obviously, Toxie was talking about losing his strikers. You do not carry your number one strikers to the woods.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not calling in the contest,
See,
so I take them to the woods,
I'm
and
still
I
guilty
lose.
of that.
Oh, I lose them.
I don't.
I'm so guilty of that because I've lost 2 of my absolute number one strikers turkey hunting, and I ought to be whooped for it because the years that I did that was so. Larry Norton won the world championship 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. I remember it.
The second year, matter of fact, he got the mouth calls. He won them from you.
He did. That's actually the story of the Black Diamond and all how that evolved. There was a guy named Kelly Cooper. Kelly's, and he had the True Leaf camo at the time, and he had Kelly's collars and stuff like that. And he gave me about 6 of these big frames, prophylactic. And it was that center V. No, I'd never seen it before, but it was just the frames, but they were a super big frame.
Huge.
Yeah, so I just threw one in my mouth. Like I never have. Bob had talked about some contest callers not using tape, just frames. So I just threw it in there. I was like, wow, this sounds so good. So I gave one to Larry because we were, hunting a lot at Bent Creek and stuff back then. And he won 2 consecutive world championships.
2 world championships.
With that call.
With that call.
That Kelly made. And so one day, it was about, along that same time, maybe a year later, Preston Pittman was up here, and he was come to see us where I was in my downtown office. And I remember pulling my drawer open, and I said, you need to see this. And so I actually showed it to him.
Yep. And
that's where he got the first
exactly
one from right there. It came from a guy named Kelly Cooper. If you're still out there, you are a true pioneer.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, him and Paul Buskey was
coming
up with a cutter, and the cutter was an accident.
Yeah.
He tried to put a cut in the call, and it ripped, so he just ripped it off.
Right.
Well, and he was fisting to throw it in the garbage, throws it in his mouth. There you go.
Was that
that's the
Moon Reed?
Yep.
Back then, he was the guy. He was the
yeah.
man. Paul Buskey was the man back then. And he was the first one I ever saw in a contest. He literally went up there, and with the same call and just the way he projected, he sounded just like 2 completely different hens calling and answering to each other. It's the first time I'd ever heard that. It was absolutely blew my mind.
And a neat story about Larry and those 2 calls. So he wins it 2 years in a row. The next year, he's the favorite to win it. This Nimrod decides to take them 2 calls turkey hunting and lost them running down a turkey at Bent Creek.
Oh, man.
And there's no doubt in my mind because I'm telling you, those 2 years I was a little kid.
Now, he could call. It was as pretty as you ever heard.
Oh, and then he lost it after that. He just never did. I mean, basically ended his calling career.
A lot of times people, because the guys winning today can replicate it better.
Yep.
But back in the day, it would be like somebody had a hot call, man, they would put it up, clean it completely, put it back in the refrigerator, didn't carry it around, just treat it like, gold bullion.
Yeah, and he was always calling me, said, you're going to lose them strikers. You keep taking. He said, I'm trying to, you're not going to learn from them, but I do lose the strikers.
Can you drill a little hole and put a string on them or something? But they just don't. Yeah. They don't. It just gets in my way to have them attached.
It's like a duck call. If you put your lanyard around the barrel and the reed, you're gonna lose one. You ain't gonna lose one of them, but how you gonna get a hold of all that? It's just anyway.
Well, that hurts your feelings to lose.
The vests we have now, we'll say, are better at putting a little striker pocket that you can't lose stuff in. But still, it's just so easy as forgetful as I am to lose.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. Mac, you over here listening.
I lose one every year.
Anything bubbling up you want to ask?
Yeah. So, I mean, are you going into these competitions? I mean, you can hear yourself yelping and you can hear yourself cutting, but I mean, you want to get another person's perspective. So, I mean, do you have like a trusted partner that listens to your runs and tells you that sounded good, keep doing that? Or are you just keeping all the doors shut until that competition's over?
I don't ask people. I mean, I've got one guy. The thing about it is that's really subjective. So with social media and Facebook, everybody's putting sound files on there. Everybody tells them they sound good, and they don't. They do not sound like a turkey. I don't sound like a turkey, and Lann don't sound like a turkey. None of us are ever going to sound like a turkey. We're just getting as close as we can. Mm-hmm. So I don't do sound files, and I don't listen to. I've got one guy that I'll ask. His name's Zach Conway.
Yep.
And I might get a "that's okay" out of him. That doesn't sound like a turkey. That's not it. It doesn't have enough back end of the yep. The middle's not this. But he's always comparing it to a turkey. He's never comparing it to another person. So I personally don't send sound files to people and ask them those questions just because if you ask 5 people, you're going to get 5 different answers. It's going to confuse the heck out of you.
Yeah, I've used my phone. I'm not calling contests, but just like, what does that really sound like? And, I hit record and leave it over there, 10 feet away or something. And you can get a better sense of it. People should try that. But my point is, if you send a sound file, though, and you're calling with the precision to call in a contest, it's probably not going to sound exactly like it does in person anyway.
I don't think it can, yeah.
I don't think you can record it and pull it off completely.
Yeah, and I do tell people if they do want to send me sound files, because I have people ask all the time, and I want to help everybody. The more you help, the more you get involved.
Sure.
I look at it from a different point of view. The more people's in it, the more money I can win. It's just, it's just what it is. But I tell them to send the sound files through different devices. So that phone, the recorder on that phone is designed to be right here.
Right.
And I tell them to send it, do a video. Don't do a voice recording. Right. Send it through Messenger on Facebook instead of sending it straight to your phone. For whatever reason, the sound quality is better through Messenger. So those things, but you kind of have to go over beyond what it sounds like. And so at that point, you're critiquing more the rhythms and the natural turkey tones. And nobody's heard every turkey, so you can't say it don't sound.
I think a lot of, just a personal thing, but I think a lot of people trying to call with mouth calls hunting that shouldn't be yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when they can sound just beautiful with a one-sided box or a glass or slate that's really matched up good in no time. And so what I was thinking about, how it's hard to really hear yourself. And I see people doing that. And I was like, man, if they really knew what they sounded like and compared to turkey. Mm-hmm. So why not, if you're judging what you're going to run with, put your phone just a little ways from you and call,
listen to
get
yourself.
The video recording and just listen to it. And then, compare that to what tape you can pull up on YouTube, a million things of, turkeys yelping.
Yeah.
And just see for yourself, because what I was getting at, like in life, we talk about self-awareness, and it's so rare for anybody to have really good self-awareness, but people have more than others. And it's just amazing how people some people don't have the ear, for what they're sounding like when they're calling.
And there's other things with friction calls that make it so neat too, because so you can feel the vibration in them. Mm-hmm. I had a good friend that was hunting in Oklahoma on a guided hunt, and they had a guide at that particular lodge that was deaf. He couldn't hear.
Wow.
I've heard.
And he run a pot call, and he could feel the vibration so good into that pot call. He could do it with a box call. Of course, he couldn't run a mouth call, but he did it off of feeling, and it blew them guys' minds.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's wild.
When the vibration started, he knew it was getting going, and
that's a great story right there.
So that's just stuff like that. There's more to it than just what you hear. You can feel the vibration. I know when I pick up a pot call, I know within 3 strokes on that thing if it's going to fit me. Mm-hmm. It saves me a lot of money. I ain't got to weed through as many.
Sadler McGraw had a good term, and I've heard him say this a few times, is the people that you consult and you get advice from changes as you progress in your career. You start dismissing what some people say and gravitating towards others.
Well, really make you feel inadequate, though, is not to cut you off, but to be like when I got it at Bent Creek. And I remember we had a writer's hunt there, and it was Paul Buskey, Chris Kirby, Eddie Salter, Preston Pittman. I think you showed up, Toxin.
Mm-hmm. Me and Cuz.
And you and Cuz. And Will Primos was there. Tom Fagley.
Did you say Harold and David?
Harold and David was there.
It was like, it's unbelievable. Mark Drury.
Mark Drury he got sick that weekend. We had to take him to the doctor to get him a shot in his rear end. He couldn't even talk the whole weekend.
Oh, man.
Cuz has that picture on his wall.
Yes.
Blown up.
I don't know, I was a teenager, and I thought I was going to be a turkey guy. And I'm sitting there listening to these guys yelp, and I'm like, I hunted with Don. Don Ship showed up, and I'm in the
he's
woods.
down there now. He in fact, I think he's going to plant some trees for us, but he's reforesting, planting pines and stuff.
Is it really? Really good deal.
He's from northern Arkansas, I think.
Northern Arkansas.
I think he got settled in down there guiding and stuff, and he started his planting business. He's got other stuff going in forestry. But
I think he does a little bit of guiding at a lodge in Missouri too. Still, he's all over the place guiding.
He can do it now.
Oh yeah, he's got it.
Wasn't he yipping with Sadler? Who was he yipping? He won the first 2-man competition.
Very shocking.
That's right. It was shocking. They won the very first ever 2-man competition.
Yeah, they were unbeatable. And then Mark Padom and Kerry Terrell come along and they become unbeatable. Mm-hmm. Some great, great talent. And you're talking about guys, though, that live with turkeys. They're not your average guy. They live with them.
Yeah, they're killers, too.
Yeah. You don't want
all the ones you named that I know are killers.
You don't want them at your place.
No, sir. You don't want to take them to your place.
Like Paul Buskey, he was locating turkeys riding around at Bent Creek, standing up in the back of Bob Martin's truck, just riding down a logging road. And he yelped so doggone loud, they were locating turkeys just riding down a logging road with him standing up in the bed.
Not on my place, you won't.
Conrad, who would you call to get a turkey kill for $1 million? I know who I'd call.
Who would I call? Y'all probably don't know the guy. You may know him, Toxie, John Charlton, from Pennington, Alabama. He was Larry Norton's grew up with Larry Norton, lifelong friend. I'm talking about.
There's some down in that world.
You've never heard of him.
They've had him down there just about longer than anywhere too.
He's the guy that he's always wanting those big wide mouth calls. So he uses a mouth call so wide that I have to buy him the sheets of aluminum and cut them out with a pair of scissors. Wow. He can take a toothpick and put it in between his teeth and his top teeth. But by gosh, he kills everything that walks out. You just don't. I mean. You can go to a place that ain't got no turkeys, and he comes walking out with an 1.5 inch spurred turkey.
Yeah, the person that I would call is completely probably unknown to everybody here. But this individual started hunting in Copiah County back in the early 80s, and he's the area manager at Copiah County Wildlife Management Area. His name's Med Palmer, and he uses... I actually sent him a few he likes my mouth yelpers, a little 2-reed, got the splits on either side mouth yelper. And he loves a tube call. He still uses a tube call that he made when he was 11 out of a piece of river cane. And he says he can get 4 different hens out of that tube call. But Med is in their head, and he always operates with a handicap now. He's taking handicapped kids. He's taking kids, handicapped veterans. Tom Kelly came to Mississippi. I think it was 22, maybe. Mm-hmm. He hunted for 2 or 3 days with Preston and no dice, and he went with Med for an afternoon and a morning and killed one.
I remember that. I remember seeing the picture.
Med.
That was the same year he came, and we filmed a lot of the stuff for the movie.
Yeah.
It was 22. Yep.
Yeah. Med had a spell there where he did not miss a day of the Mississippi turkey season for 32 seasons.
Wow. Wowzers!
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
There was an article in the Clarion Ledger about Med.
We need to talk to Med.
He did not miss a day of the Mississippi turkey season for 32 seasons.
So he's obviously not married.
He was, and he's not anymore.
That would explain it probably.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was some other factors, but I'm not, in his business.
I'm just kidding, but yeah.
I will say this though, we can't forget about our old buddy Cuz. The first year I got it at Bent Creek, I was struggling. Like I thought I was a turkey hunter. I wasn't no turkey hunter. And
you know what I have to say? What makes those guys back there, we call them Murderers Row, what made them so good is the guys had a territory.
Oh, yes.
And they had to guide people in a territory and kill turkeys all year long.
Yes,
so,
and they
did swap around some. They had a lot of land down there, but they were so good on leaving a light footprint, getting in and out.
Bob Walker's area, I mean.
Yep. All those guys.
Gosh, dog. I mean, like.
Amazing.
And I never could get any of them guys to throw me a bone. Like I was struggling.
Oh, no.
I need to get some help.
No, sir.
And I'd go
You're on your own.
I'd go to the butcher, and he would say, Just go over there, so right there. Be one over there, got one. There ain't no turkeys over there.
He was amazing.
Y'all, awesome.
Mr. Bedwell.
Yes, Mr. Bedwell was
that's
awesome.
one of
They
my-
called it a butcher. But
One of my favorite
for a
stories
reason.
was Cuz talking about him, and he was wearing all those guys, and they could all call so amazing. He just had his box, that was it, and he was wearing them out all spring.
Yeah.
So Cuz went with him, and they went that morning, and he said a turkey gobbled, and he had some hens with him, and he said he literally yelped like 3 times all morning long until like 10 o'clock. 3 different times he'd called like, "Meow, meow, meow, meow." That's it. I think he might have clucked a time or two like that. And it was about, Cuz is going to, I mean, he's blown it out. He calls as much as anybody ever been with and loves to. And then he said he went that afternoon. He said, we're going to kill that turkey this afternoon. And they did. Mm-hmm. He said, we're going here. I know what he's going to do there. And he looked at Cuz. He said, and one thing different, I'm not going to call near as much as I did this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I went that.
And he literally called like one time.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And I mean, I don't even think he wore a face mask half the time. I mean, he didn't even look like he was supposed to be.
But they
there.
nicknamed him the Butcher because he could kill them just as good as those guys that win contests.
It was some fun times there. I know that when I was having that real struggle and that dry spell, we had them riders in, and I was sweating. And Cuz could tell that I was having a hard time. And I had went with Will Primos and John Phillips that afternoon. Went with Will and Bubba. We couldn't get on nothing. And I was just frustrated. And Cuz pulled me to the side and said, hey, you know where the stadium is? I said, yeah. He said, there's 3 turkeys across this slough.
I named it the stadium.
Did you really?
Yep, I sure did.
He said, if you'll go sit right here, he said, there's 3 turkeys right there. I said, really? Because Don Ship was hunting the stadium.
It was a hard place to kill one because it literally, you could see like 400 yards.
Yeah, and it's right on the edge of the Tom Bigby. I mean, it's right on the river. And them turkeys, a lot of times, will fly across the river. He said, I think they're going to be right here. Well, I took Tom Fagley in there the next morning, and all 3 of them turkeys was in there. Called them up point blank range, and Fagley missed all 3 of them. 3 shots, boom, 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 all 3 of them fly off. I mean, it was just, that amazed me at how those guys knew. They knew. I mean, it was, I wish I could go back to those days because I could have learned way more if I'd have been listening better.
Yeah.
Wow. Mr. Fox, all of his infinite wisdom about stuff, people would ask him because when I grew up, he was, considered the master woodsman amongst his peer turkey hunter guys, and also, a really good caller and stuff too. And they would always ask him, what do you think's most important? And at the time, everybody looked up to whoever called. That's kind of a pride thing. It sounded so good. But he said, it's the way he put it. He said, number 1 over everything, knowing the lay of the land. And that's what he said. That trumps everything. So you made a point a minute ago. You could be like, whatever, Will Primo, someone's known widely, had a lot of experience. And you go to a new place, you're operating at a handicap to the guy who knows the place inside and out, 100%. And I'm telling you, I'll go somewhere new and I feel so insecure and lost. And then I'm second guessing myself. I'm not knowing what to do. I mean, it's all, that we talk about the woodsmanship side of it. That's part of it. Just knowing where you are. Like Bobby's been hunting the same place for 20-something years now. And he knows every little SMZ nook and cranny and, where they go, where they tend to not go, whatever,
Makes a big difference.
It does.
That's one of the things that I hate to lose a place.
Yeah.
And it's not just from the losing opportunity standpoint, but all the knowledge that I have of that property.
And the memories too.
And another thing that impacts me is significant habitat changes like tornadoes, cutovers, that kind of stuff. It changes the whole dynamic of how turkeys use that property, and you have to relearn it. And ground zero all over.
Bobby's all over that.
Yeah, Lanny and I experience that every year. Dudley, I'm going to ask them if they would to make some calls for us, but while they're getting their stuff, have you got a question for them?
Yeah, it's more of a hunting tip because I know you guys are, you're putting out your best sounds in these contests, but you're also in a perfect, the humidity in that room is a lot lower because there's central heat and air. I guess I was really thinking about a pot call, but you could throw in box as well. Like, are there any tips for making those things sound better, or are there certain woods you won't use outside that you do use inside, that kind of thing?
Me personally, I don't really change any of that from outside to inside. When I'll run on the stage, I'd run in the woods.
Okay.
I would say with like your anodized aluminums, your stuff like that inside, they're going to run a little bit better. If you jump out to cold weather, they may slick up on you a little bit. That's the reason I like slate a lot and aluminum, because I can condition them in the woods to where the weather changes doesn't affect them as much.
Yeah, that's a tip to talk to people about, because I used to have to I'd turn the heater on and set them up on the dash and let them heat up some because when they're super cold, they just get so slick.
I use those hand warmers, those stick-on hand warmers. I didn't think about that. And I'll put them in little bitty Tupperware bowls.
And stick them in there with them. Yeah.
Keep them in my pocket.
It does, especially on slate, but all of them. It makes a big difference.
And actually, a slate could be just as waterproof as anything. Like, you could take a slate with, I think, Woodhaven's got a striker called a rain check. I mean, you could put that joker in a bucket of water, pull it out and run it, So stuff like that's the reason I go with slate and aluminums.
Yeah.
If it's raining, and I don't go much in the rain, but if it is, I just put everything up and take a mouth call.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ruin most of my stuff if I do. So.
And those pot calls get wet in your vest, you forget about it. Next thing you know, you pick them up and all the glasses rattle.
I'm just not, some of them might be waterproof, but I'm so worried about, I'm paranoid that I'm going to mess them up, so I just leave them in the truck.
One of the calls I use that's not really applicable to contest at all, that I use a lot in a hunting situation, is a scratch box.
Those are cool.
They're fairly difficult to run, and every Billy Joe Jim Bob can't run a scratch box. So it gives you a different sound. It's kind of like the whole phase we're in right now with everybody being on the trumpet wing bone bandwagon. I'm more of a tube call scratch box guy if I need something that's different and unconventional.
That scratch box sounds hollow, like an old.
You got it's harder to find a good one, I think. But when you do, of course, Mr. Bill Sugg, he's first team All-American push button calls.
He can run them now.
He's got like 4, but that's the one.
4.
Oh yeah,
in one hand.
He carries 4 when he goes up. That's right. He does do that. Yeah. But I think it is. I mean, people look at the shelf and they go, "Oh, that's for beginners and all." No. You find this finding a really good push button call is cool to have in your vest.
We need to get you one, Bobby.
Yeah, we do. I'd like to have a couple of those. Well, I want to hear y'all call. So I want to call. I want to say a call and y'all run through them for us. Taxi, you were doing really good at doing your announcing voice for a call. If you would do one, and then we'll get.
That's the first time Bobby's ever told me I really did something really good.
Lann, you drew the first place, and Jason will be number 2.
I hope I get this right. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Caller number 1, when you're ready, give us your key run.
And we're starting out tough.
Got to get another call down.
It's going in for the kill right
The countdown's going. 50 seconds started. That was
beautiful. Wait a minute.
Stupid.
Wait a minute. Thank you, caller number 1. Is that not what they do?
That's exactly what they do. So
Hey,
audition for a job.
I'll rest my case. These people are musicians.
They are good.
Yeah.
That's not just good calling. That's a musician.
All right, so now we've got.
And so for the world, just so everybody, we might or might not have mentioned that was with a box call.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What about caller number 2? What we got?
Well, I guess we're going to do the same thing. Caller number 2, when you're ready, give us your key run.
You think chalked, or did you slick it up?
A little competition. A friendly competition.
Same Bob, but he's at a handicap. He's using his buddy's call. So.
You gave him the same call.
Yeah.
There we go. Pressure's on.
So you don't even have a mouth call with you? I don't. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Thank you, caller number 2.
Wow.
And I might add, do not leave that laying around anywhere. I mean, you wouldn't believe how things just disappear.
Bobby's turning Gamekeeper green over there.
Oh, that is
was
so
beautiful.
good. How would we score that, guys? Who would we pick?
Bobby, that's not fair.
You can't do that.
It's all on paper. You don't talk about
Yeah.
it, Bobby.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go. Let's do another couple.
Well, they're using the same call.
I'd tell you what. I wanted to stand up and salute.
Okay.
That was so good.
I mean,
Caller number 1, when you're ready, give us the assembly call of an adult hen.
Perfect. Don't slip, Lann.
Have you noticed that Jason never stops smiling?
I love this stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's right. Because it is
I think
fun.
if y'all all left mid talks, would be here at midnight
Yeah,
talking.
this is true.
He's the happy part of this relationship.
The yin and the yang.
Thank you, caller number 1.
I love that. I love that yee-yawk. That's what I call it.
You know,
You're not running
they
a box
use-
call, Lann. You're running a box call.
Once again, on a box call.
What'd you say you fight
Ladies
for
and
your
gentlemen.
life every time you're on that stage?
They use all the 50 seconds. You guys are using the whole 50 seconds.
The buzzer went off on that one.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm glad it wasn't Nashville if I went over.
Yeah.
man, that was,
Caller number 2, are you interested in giving us a assembly call? of
Jason,
an
I'd
adult
like I'd like also while you're getting
hen? I wish
ready.
somebody had their mouth calls with them.
I wish.
You want that?
Why would you have not brought calls? What would you?
Because now you got something to blame it on.
Because I'm extremely paranoid of my calls. I won't fly with them.
Yeah.
You don't fly with them.
Yeah.
You don't fly with them.
Yeah.
Thank you, caller number 2.
Wow.
So let's do one more. Let's take the degree of difficulty up with these friction calls. I think maybe I can't decide between the two, but I would say caller number 1. When you're ready, give us your fly down cackle.
I love a cackle.
Yeah.
And that's different than the cutting of an excited hen.
That's right.
You know, two different things.
It's a different call.
Which one?
You know, Toxie may have found his call in here. He might
No
need
pun
to be a
intended.
turkey call announcer.
I've just been to a lot of them.
I've practiced on it a lot. There's some strategy involved, but you got to get this tree.
Yeah, maybe we got him sweating.
That's
finally.
a tough one.
Man, we
on
can't
a
see you
plate.
now.
Yep.
You
Pretty.
Pretty good.
How about
That's
that?
hard to do on a slate.
It's hard.
It's impressive.
Nice rhythm, caller number 1.
It's tough to do them.
I feel like there should be some kind of applause when they.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah,
Richie, we don't have that loaded in.
The horns, something.
You want me to hit this with some?
Or, you ain't got the turkey gobble loaded in there? I mean, let's give them There we go.
Don't start that.
Hey. Here we go. It's feeling, I mean.
I know it's too early, too soon.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it too soon?
We're talking about extra days of deer season. So you just showed me that.
See you
So
practicing on the pressure.
stay focused
now
on
and
it.
everybody looking at you. There's more people looking at you now than will be at the Grand Nationals. Actually.
I don't care. That doesn't bother me, man.
Nobody's looking
The
at
only thing
you.
that bothered me was that first time I was there, man, and I was walking off the stage after I sounded like a crow being violated by an eagle in mountain. Woo! That was tough. Do you want this call? Or
That's
you want
fine.
You good?
That'll work.
He has a completely different approach to a fly down.
If you were in just an open contest, you'd be flying down. You'd be using a mouth call. I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. Oh
I would think so.
yeah, sure.
That's
I
why.
lean more towards friction now just because of just time.
Yep.
I mean,
I just think I'm just so hearing him the first time is like I didn't even realize in the last years I hadn't been going to calling contests as much how advanced the friction sounds have advanced. I remember when Matt Morat won the Grand Nationals with a slate call for the first time. Anybody had ever done that, and I thought, he landed on the moon and it'll never happen again. Yep. And lo and behold, today.
Yep, it can happen. I mean, Van Sice has won a couple of his Grand Nationals, and he mixed the friction call.
I don't doubt it. Sounds so good.
These boxes and some of these pots are just so good.
All right, what you got? So far, y'all hadn't been there. Y'all hadn't slipped very much.
Well, Lann ain't sabotaged his calls yet for me. So
I ain't gonna do that.
He gets an increased degree of difficulty for barring someone else's calls, though.
Yeah, he's better at this than I am. He's been doing it longer.
And she's on the ground.
That conditioning matters more.
Very nice. Dudley cannot
Come
wipe
on.
the smile off his face.
I just love hearing it.
Yeah.
Guys, that is so good.
The assembly yelping was done on two different Matt Van Sice boxes.
Mm-hmm.
The fly down was done on one of Dustin Jones's Blackstone black slates in a Purdue pot, and the key was done on Marlon Watkins' long box.
Well, they sounded good.
No, that
Yeah.
long box.
I would say
Just
this
so
is
for
crazy.
y'all out there, he's opened up this case. I'm looking at the back side of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there were 6, maybe a 7th friction call. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20 something strikers. So you know.
yeah, and he's got 2 more compartments. In
That's right. I'm just
That's
saying.
only one.
Just
That's
so
one
you know,
side opened up.
The appropriate striker to pot ratio. It's about 5 to 1.
So just theoretical, if you were to put all these box calls up on eBay, separate auctions,
You can't do that.
what I mean,
Well, it depends on what the demand is, though. That, he might pull one up nobody's heard of, and so how do they know?
yeah.
But some of this stuff, if the name y'all know that certain names
that
today,
long box right there.
anything they make is up into the thousands of dollars
Yeah.
automatically, no matter what they make.
I'll put it like
is.
this: that long
Fire
box,
delay,
that Marlon
though.
Watkins long box, 20 years from now, will be worth tens of thousands.
Oh, I bet.
Wow.
The call collector thing is real.
That-
and they'll run the prices up. What did the guy pay for the trumpet made from the wood from the mossy oak tree that Prudhomme made?
Wasn't it 25,000?
I think it was $25,000.
I don't doubt it.
We raised
From
money
that
for-
tree. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen on eBay where a gentleman from New Jersey that has supposedly got I can't remember his name, but he's got the largest call collection. he bought a Miss Polly's lynch box. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Miss Polly.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, there ain't but like 40 of them in the world. And of all people that had 2 of them, Toxic was Rodney Kraft.
Wow. How about
And
that?
He bought them from.
That's because he grew up over there, right by.
Well, he bought them from. He was going through Birmingham, stopped by this little store. Glenn Long was telling me this story. I didn't even know about it. And the guy had all these lynch boxes, and he said, "Well, how much will you take for all these boxes?" And all this stuff. They've been here forever. I'll take $200 for them.
Wow.
There was 2 Miss Pollys in there with them.
Wow.
And the one finished Miss Polly, I think, sold for $12,000 or $13,000 on eBay.
Wow.
Wow.
That particular long box is almost irreplaceable.
Yeah, that Sung and
I would
Sound.
say so.
It's
Great.
almost
Listening to it.
irreplaceable.
Yeah.
You just about can't replicate it.
I actually got to go to Marlin's shop this past summer. I
Really?
got to sit with him for 3 days. That was an experience. I'll tell you. Yeah, that was a lot.
He's a true craftsman now.
Yeah,
Oh, my
not
goodness.
bad.
He's
I
an
hope to have
engineer
him here
by
soon.
trade. He's
Yeah.
a mechanical engineer, so he knows how to build stuff.
I went, about 3 weeks after you did?
Did we
Yeah,
have
I
him on
went
the
down
pod?
to
Yeah, we did.
September. I was
Yeah,
on
we'll
class
have him
up
back
at
in a
the
few
airport.
weeks.
Yeah, we had him on pod
Yeah.
with us.
So let's try, guys. Let's try. We've been going a while. Let's try to kind of wrap this up. We could do this all day. It's just been really good. And Jason, I keep gravitating to you, and this smile you have on your face. You enjoy this so much. Yeah. We talk about it all
Well,
the
he's
time.
smiling because he realizes this is pushing it over the cliff here. That it's that time of year is upon us again.
Yeah, it really just hit me a minute
Yeah,
ago.
that's why Dudley hadn't quit smiling.
I
either.
heard that sweet music.
Richie, guys, why don't y'all lean back, pull your mics over there. We're going to ask you a trivia question.
All right, so here we go. Today's winner, podcast listener, left a review. King John King.
King John King.
Yep.
Isn't that the hit of North Korea
Yeah,
or something?
that's Kim Jong Un.
Okay.
King.
Scared me for a minute.
King.
King John King.
Man, what's he
yeah.
doing? Turkey hunting.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I look forward to
turkeys
listening
out
to every podcast every day. Thank you, fellas, for all your wisdom.
Oh. They must not be talking about.
And
you.
we use
They got the right podcast.
I was gonna say, and we use the term loosely.
But they got the wrong one.
Thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, well, we'll take it anyway.
So, King John King.
What do you win?
His prize here is a set of Duke dog-proof traps.
Hey.
That's fair.
It's
I'd
that
use
time.
that. That's something I could use.
That's
Yeah.
actually
Well,
handy.
Mac took them all yesterday, so I don't know if there's any left.
Yeah, we didn't. There wasn't any.
I promise you, Duke has got a bunch of them.
Okay.
You'll go to duketraps.com. And you can find
Tractor
I
trailer.
got to
loads
order
of
some
them.
up myself.
Yep.
All right, me too. So, keeping with our theme of what different groups of animals are called, what is a group of skunks called?
Ooh. Group of skunks.
A group of skunks.
A group of crows is a murder.
Would that be a striped skunk or a spotted skunk?
Or I saw a pure black skunk the other day.
I did too.
I saw
you
two on the
see
way.
one?
I saw two on the.
It is the
They
skunk
breeding.
mating season right now.
It is.
We
They're-
have
they are in
multiple
rut.
choice.
You don't know that line?
No. I'm not a skunk dog. Why would I know what a group
Lanny
of
is-
Skunks don't get CWD either.
Is this the week we were giving away $2,500?
It was.
Oh, man.
what about-
a group of skunks? I guess a stank.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty close. Pretty close.
A smelly,
A stank.
a smelly
A
family.
stank. I like that.
Almost. So
You wanna take a shot?
It's
Pretty close.
It does start
What
with
is
an
it?
S.
It does start with an S. You are close though.
A skank?
A skank.
A scat.
Something with
I never heard of this word, honestly.
Too many hints.
All right,
Too many
here we go.
hints.
eel.
stench.
Stench. Well,
Um,
that's
Stench of
was
A
skunks.
stench of
Stank-
scope.
stank
a
might-
stench of skunks. Outstanding.
That's
I
it?
think that's a
I think-
southern
I think he
vernacular for
gets it.
stench.
Yeah, I think you
gets
give it to him. I think you give it to him 100%.
Yeah, he's got that.
On the stank.
Yeah, on the stank, the
Yeah.
stench, that's close
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Pretty good, Lann.
That's close enough.
Yeah, fortunately, this wasn't the week we were giving away the $2,500. That's the next week.
That's next
So,
week.
Yeah.
That's
good. Well, we've
Huh.
learned a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole contest calling thing is really interesting. And if you're interested in turkeys and turkey hunting, there's going to be a contest around you somewhere. You can go, you should go and listen.
They're worth going to.
They
You
really
learn a
are.
lot. And I would encourage people to try to participate.
And
What
if
you're going to find if you go to one, most of those, some of them are very private, reclusive people. Most of them, these guys would love to visit with you. And, you know, if you had a
absolutely.
question, how'd you do
Great
that? Or
people.
how'd you do that? Or
Yeah.
what would you use here? I mean, go ask them questions.
They're all
Oh,
in
ask
there
us.
'cause they
There's
love
if people are looking for a place to find out about contests, There's a group of guys in Georgia got a Talk About It Outdoors podcast. They have updates throughout the whole year on their podcast. They got a caller podcast, great podcast, and they'll tell what events have come up and then the results of past events. So if you want to know about that, that's a good place, good resource for that.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex and Nick do a good job with that podcast. They've just started it, I think, last summer with having the caller portion of it.
So I would imagine the NWTF probably has a list of events
They do.
as well
They do,
on their
website.
Turkey calling contest page on Facebook will usually keep them updated also.
Well, guys, I've really enjoyed it.
We got one more announcement.
Oh, that's right. So this is some breaking news that
Hot
just happened.
off
and
the press.
Of course, we'll be a
from
week late getting it out.
MDWFP.
You might not even.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Are you ready? That's some like breaking news stuff.
We're working on it.
All right. Well, turn it off so I can read this.
Use your newscaster voice.
I should let Toxie read this.
No,
He's got
I
the
don't-
voice.
no, I'll let you do it.
So this Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks just posted this. This morning at the January Commission meeting, the Commission for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks voted to extend the 2024-25 either sex white-tailed deer season through 30 minutes after sunset on Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. All right. Got a couple more days.
And we already had 197 and a
Yeah,
half
but
days,
you know what?
and we need 2 more.
We do need
The
2 more.
legislature made that change a couple of years ago, and they said if the season closes on a Friday or Saturday, they can extend it through the weekend.
I like it.
Sweet.
One last
more
weekend to shoot
days.
more deer.
Yeah, so
It's just 2 days closer to turkey season.
Only get to hunt on the weekends is perfect.
Closer
That
to
is good.
Grand National,
Glad they did that.
Yeah.
closer
Well,
to
I'll tell you what, Mississippi
I
just
mean, that just brings the morale up.
Yeah.
You know, it was a good move.
Mississippi does a lot of things right. Yeah, I'm
They do.
impressed with those guys down there. So, all right, look, thank y'all for coming up.
Yeah,
this has
appreciate
been a lot
y'all
of
being
fun. All right, why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.